Hey everyone, it's 10 Types, and today I'm talking about some stuff that is kind of weird and kind of complicated and confusing, and in my opinion, pretty fun and silly. So today we're talking about Pokemon TCG rules, but not like the regular rules like doing damage and attaching energy and stuff like that. I have 5 rules here. Some of these are pretty specific, and not gonna lie, I also don't understand all of them completely. But these are official Pokemon rulings there on the Pokegym Compendium or something like that. And so these are rulings that are official. And I just like scrolled through this and found some ones that I didn't really know. One of the first one I'm going to talk about is practical and it does matter, but the rest could happen. They are all standard more or less. But anyways, let's just hop right in and you'll see what I mean. The first one though is talking about evolution Pokemon and evolved Pokemon. This is something that doesn't come up too often, I guess, but I mean it certainly matters. I guess the Pokemon, the evolution Pokemon and evolved Pokemon are in a lot of games. So for example, we have Hearthflame Master Ogre Pontiac. This card, isn't the best card, but it's fine. I mean, it sees some play, and the attack dynamic Blaze does 140 damage, but it does 140 more damage if you're attacking an evolution Pokemon. And so, there are evolution Pokemon in the game, like Charizard DX, for example, so you can do more damage there. Then we have the card Team Devolution. Team Devolution is a tool which gives the attack Devolution, which says devolve each of your opponent's evolved Pokemon by putting the highest stage evolution card on it into your opponent's hand. Like you could devolve a Charizard DX into Charmeleon or a Charmander, depending whether or not it's been rare candied. Not too complicated there, right? But this gets a little more complicated when we take a look at the card. Oh, this card isn't in standard. I said I was talking about standard cards. This one is not, but it's Archeops, and I think this is the best example that I can think of. I imagine there are some examples in standard. Yeah, there's like Luxray from I want to say Paldea Evolved, but whatever. The Luxray that, goes into play when you're down on prizes. But Archeops is a card that, I mean, it's a stage 2, but it's not really played like a normal stage 2 because it evolves from a fossil, and also, like, there's an easier way to get into play when it was in standard, which was Lugia V-Star, which just says that you put a colorless Pokemon or 2 colorless Pokemon that don't have rule boxes from your discard pile onto your bench. And these Pokemon are just like Archeops, right? So there's nothing underneath the Archeops, because normally when you evolve, you have a Pokemon, like you'd have the Argon or the Archon, and then the fossil under it or something like that. Like as I said, with Charizard DX, you have the basic or the stage 1 under it. And so if you team Devolution, then you'd devolve an evolved Pokemon. But Archeops is not an evolved Pokemon, it's an evolution Pokemon. This is the difference is that an evolved Pokemon is evolved from something. And for example, it says evolved from Archon or Archon, but that's only if you actually evolved it from it. If you evolved it from unidentified fossil, then it's evolved from that. And if you didn't evolve it at all, if you just got into play using Lugia V-Star power, it's not evolved. You can't devolve it. However, Hearthflame Mask Ogre EX is still going to be doing the 280 damage whether or not it's evolved or not, because it does more damage to evolution Pokemon. An evolution Pokemon is a property of the card Archeops. It's always an evolution Pokemon. It's an evolution Pokemon in your deck, which can be searched out using Brock Scouting. In standard, you can search evolution Pokemon. So that's the difference there. It's interesting. And when in play, most Pokemon are you can have evolved Pokemon, you can have basic Pokemon, and in your deck you have evolution Pokemon or basic Pokemon. There are some other things as well. But this definitely can matter some. I mean, Team Devolution is a card that obviously is played in standard. It's a pretty good card. It doesn't matter too often, but can. And I wanted to mention this one. This one's simpler, but I did see it and I wanted to talk about it. The next thing we have is not as simple, and not gonna lie, I don't entirely understand this one. But so Pikachu EX has an ability, Resolute Heart, which says if it has full HP and would be knocked out by damage from an attack, it is not knocked out, and instead its remaining HP becomes 10. So that's relatively straightforward. It can't be one-shotted. That's good, right? Yes, your opponent could break through the ability through the use of something like say Monkey Dory or Hawlucha, I guess, and then you're not at full HP, and then they knock you out, and they could also hit you with something like Poison or Burn, and then they hit you, and then you're down to 10 after the attack, and then you get burned or poisoned between turns, and then are knocked out, and that can happen, right? So it stops from getting truly one-shotted, though. You need to be hit twice, essentially. You could be instantly one-shotted by something like Roaring Moon EX with Frenzy Gouging, but that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about Roaring Moon EX's attack, Calamity Storm. Calamity Storm, if you're not familiar, it does for the 3 energy. It does 100, but you can discard a statement play. If you do, you do 120 more, so 220 damage. So, if you hit for 100, obviously, you don't get the knockout. If you hit for 220, well, you also don't get the knockout because you have 200 HP. and then you're hit for 220. So then that's, you get, you would be one shot, but you're not. So then you're going to 190 there. So you will survive that. But then you have the stadium, Lively Stadium. Lively Stadium is, well, a stadium, obviously. And it says each basic Pokemon in play, both yours and your opponents, get 30 more HP. So Pikachu X would then be up to 320. No, 230 HP. Then Evolving Mooney isn't actually one-shotting you with Calamity Storm. It's only doing 220, so it does 220 to you. And so you're not being one-shotted by the attack, but instead you are taking 220 damage. And then the stadium's discarded, and then you don't have 230 HP anymore, you have 200 HP. So then you have 220 damage counters on you, or 22 damage counters on you, or have taken 220 damage, and then you have 200 HP, and then you're knocked out. And the ability doesn't trigger, you just get knocked out. However, if you have a like Vitality Band on Roaring Mooniac, so you're doing 10 more damage, you'd be doing that 230, and then you have 230 HP, you'd be getting one-shotted, and so then your ability would kick in. So if you attach Vitality Band, you wouldn't get the knockout, but if you don't attach Vitality Band, you would get the knockout. That's really weird. And here's the official ruling here. Which says, I'm just going to read this whole thing. So the question is, if Pikachu EX has full HP and a Lively Stadium is in play, then Roaring Moon uses its attack and discards the stadium. Will the ability prevent it from being knocked out? And the answer is no. As I said, Calamity Storm does 220, then that many damage counters are placed on Pikachu, and then it no longer has full HP, and so the stadium doesn't get triggered, and then stadium's discarded, and then its remaining HP is turned to 200, and then it's knocked out. And then it says the thing about the Vitality Band. So this is super weird. This one, I think I understand. I explained it, so it makes sense, kind of. Honestly, attacking the Pokemon TCG is kind of weird, and it's kind of hard to figure out exactly how all the interactions work out. But this is definitely a really unique one that I have not seen happen, but it is pretty interesting. Tell me down below in the comments if you have seen this happen. I would be pretty surprised if you have, but it is possible. These cards are played some. Then we have Sylveon EX. Sylveon EX has an attack. Angelite, this one does something. It doesn't really matter what it does for this, but it says if one of your Pokemon used Angelite during your last turn, this attack cannot be used. So obviously it stops you from using it every turn because that would be broken, I guess. Honestly, I don't think Angelite's super strong, but regardless, you can't do that. And there are some other attacks like that. However, you kind copy Angelite using Buey X, and this just copies it. And then the ruling here is that you can just do this. You can just genome hacking Angelite over and over again. And this is because the attack you're using is genome hacking. You're not using Angelite. You choose Angelite, and then the attack you choose one of your opponent's active Pokemon's attacks and use it as this attack, so you're kind of using it, but you're just using the effect of it, really not the attack itself. And we have this other ruling, which is the same. It says, can Slowking use its Seek Inspiration attack to copy Terrakion's Cavern Tackle on successive turns? Oh, Terrakion also isn't in standard, but if it used Seek Inspiration on the turn before, and the answer, I believe, is yes. And again, same thing with Angelite here, allowing you to repeat the attacks, which is pretty interesting. And it says, if Genome, or if MuEX used Genome Hacking last turn to copy Angelite, can it use Genome Hacking again? And it can. And it says, yes, MuEX used the effect of Angelite last turn, but the attack it did was Genome Hacking. It's not like you're using both attacks. You're just doing the attack, Genome Hacking. That is the one attack you're doing. It's a little weird. I honestly was kind of surprised. I kind of thought that you did both attacks, but no, you just do the one attack. And again, you don't have the restriction there because you didn't do it there. Then we have the next card, Noctowl. Noctowl is a pretty commonly played card in Standard. It's not some insane card. Well, and it's actually pretty good, honestly, but it shouldn't be too complicated. The rules a little long, but if there's a Terra in play, you search for evolutions. It does some stuff on play or on evolution from hand, right? But then we have Hoot Hoot. Hoot Hoot is, I actually thought the ruling I looked at only mentions the 80 HP Hoot Hoot, but I believe it works with the 70 HP Hoot Hoot. But regardless, you have Hoot Hoot, which is a Pokebond. It's a basic Pokemon. It's got 70 or 80 HP or something like that. And then we also have the tool card Bravery Charm, which gives you 50 more HP to basic Pokemon. And I imagine some of you kind of know where this is going. So Bravery Charm, you stick it on the Hoot Hoot, and then the Hoot Hoot has, let's say it has 100 damage on it or something like that, because it has more than 100 HP. Then you evolve into Noctowl, which has 100 HP. Then obviously the Noctowl will get knocked out because Bravery Charm is no longer active because it's not basic. So your HP is going down, which is not ideal, but then the thing I was thinking was, I think, or I wasn't sure how this would work, but apparently the Pokemon's knocked out before we get the chance to use the ability. You can never use the ability, um, which is interesting because you're knocked out at the same time that, or presumably to me at the same time that you're trying to use the ability, but no, you'd never get to use the ability. The KO takes effect before Jewel Seeker can be activated, so it's just like instantly knocked out there. Last card we have here, this is two cards, Enzorg EX, which if you're not familiar with, it's a card with, it does some stuff, but the main thing that I'm going to be talking about here is the attack, or is the ability Trade, which says you must discard a card from your hand in order to use this ability. Then once during your turn, you may draw two cards. So pretty good, discard one, draw two, classic ability, we see this all the time. And of course, Enzorg EX is a reference to Zorg GX with the ability Trade, which is, again, discard one, draw two. It says once during your turn before you attack, which is like everything. You may discard a card from your hand, and if you do, draw two cards. Nothing, too complicated there. Discard one, draw two. And so, that's a direct callback, right? It's the same ability, right? We see Dynamotor as a reprint. We see Inferno Fandango as a reprint from the Black Bolt and White Flare sets. And lots of reprints all the time. Pretty fun, right? It's the same ability, except it's not the same ability. They are worded differently, and that wording means that they work differently. So in order to use Enzorg EX's ability, you need to discard a card from your hand. Obviously, if you can't do that, you can't use it. And that's true for both of them. However, you can't use it if there are no cards in your deck. If you have cards in your hand you want to discard, you can't draw anything. You're not allowed to use this ability because the effect of the ability, what you're trying to do is draw two cards. That's what you're trying to do. You have a cost in discarding a card from your hand, but the goal is to discard the cards. On the other hand, Zorg GX says you can use the ability, and then what the ability lets you do is you discard a card, and then if you did discard a card, you draw two cards. But the first thing you do is discard a card. That's what you're trying to do with the ability. That's not the cost of the ability. That's what you're doing. Functionally, these are almost the same, but not exactly the same. And I didn't know this before. I actually want to check on a Lipard what that says. That's another card with a trade ability. Okay, so this is the same as Enzorg EX. So this is interesting. This is also how Professor's research works. It's like Enzorg EX, where you have to have cards to draw in order to use it. It's definitely interesting, and it's also, in my opinion, not super intuitive. I think it makes sense with Enzorg EX and Enzorg GX, but definitely interesting to see that these cards they don't have the same ability. It's really similar, and it looks identical, but it's not the same. The wording differences do matter, but tell me down below if you want to see more weird rulings about this, or if you have any questions about these rulings, because there's a lot of weird, complicated stuff in Pokemon. For the most part, it's relatively simple, but there are definitely times when reading cards doesn't make things 100% clear, especially if you're not familiar with all the nuances within the rules. But I hope you enjoyed. Consider liking, subscribing, hitting the bell, all the good stuff. And as Ozzy said, see you in the next video.